Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sports Scientist Podcast. Our guest today is the big guy, Chad Wesley, Will Smith over here. And your hostess with the mostest, whatever, body hair probably, Dr. Mike Israetel. And the guy with the most power tools in all of the fitness world, Dr. James Hoffman. You're welcome, America. You're welcome.
Folks, thank you so much. That was my co-host, Dr. Marcos Rodriguez. Congratulations. Last week finished a PhD in mushroom development and organobiosynthetic psychedelochemistry.
Mycology, that's cool too.
But, I mean, I hit on the real shit that you actually did.
All right.
So, Chad.
Michael.
Good to see you.
Mikhail.
Are you ready for questions from the high, overachieving, superlative halo in the sky known as Instagram?
Fire away.
Wow. And we get started.
I pride myself on when I do my Instagram Q&As of at least one question answered per minute.
That's pretty good.
Holy shit. You type these?
Yeah.
Damn.
On the phone.
Damn. Emilia Arx says, question, how critical is training frequency in terms of maximizing potential for powerlifting and weightlifting? There's a lot of talk about after a certain number of sets per week, hypertrophic potential diminishes. But what about strength/technique? Is there a benefit to increasing from 3 to 4 days a week to 5 to 6, provided I'm recovering appropriately from the extra stress?
Well, yeah, the last part, that caveat of provided you're recovering appropriately, then go ahead and increase. More technical exposure, particularly in weightlifting, it's going to make a bigger difference because the technique is so much more refined than powerlifting. So assuming that you are recovering appropriately, then go ahead and increase the frequency. You'll probably get higher quality sessions with that as well. But if you're getting all the way up to five or six sessions per week of a given lift, maybe I could see like small female powerlifters bench pressing 5 or 6 times a week. But anyone else, I can't imagine actually effectively recovering with that.
Yeah, I think the strategy there is more for skill enhancement. So for powerlifting, I could see that being less and less applicable. Whereas like weightlifting, you have a really high technique, complex skill that you're working on. You could say a similar thing to like gymnastics or even like figure skating, where you need that constant reinforcement of the technique. But for just getting bigger and even stronger to some case, the frequency is not necessarily better or worse outside of what you can recover from. So
there's also a real factor in overload frequency versus just frequency.
Yeah.
At some point, if you're trying to get a 900 plus pound squatter to squat 4 times a week, some of those sessions are going to be to some extent just technical reinforcement. And if it's an advanced lifter that has good technique already, it's kind of questionable. Chad, can you talk about that? Like, at what point do you make the cutoff of more sessions reinforce technique versus maybe just sit at home and relax? Or what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. You know, in regards to technical sessions, and I talked about in my presentation earlier, I encourage people to strive for finding the lightest weight that they can feel their technique at. Yeah, it's very easy if someone has 135 on the bar or whatever to just do the reps and not be mindful of where was the pressure in my foot. And even if they are mindful of it, to not actually be able to tell the difference between a good squat and a bad squat when the weight is too light. But as you become more and more advanced, I think you can feel at lighter and lighter weights what's good, what's not, and then use those technical sessions for recovery without interfering with recovery. Or sorry, use them for technical development without interfering with recovery, perhaps even enhancing recovery. And I had gotten to the point for myself where like 170 kilo squat, which was less than 25% intensity, I could tell I did that well or not well, and felt like it was improving my technique from really high frequency of that.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting stuff. Next question from It's Really Me Seriously. Chad, can you sit on a normal toilet comfortably?
Define normal.
Define comfort.
Do you need like a big man toilet, like as featured in Robin Big? If you ever saw that episode where he gets big, the big man toilet.
I was a fan of Robin Big. I don't remember that specific episode. The one that really stands out to me is the Black Lavender.
Yes. Oh my God.
I charge by the pound.
That's when Big was a stripper.
I would like to get myself a velour suit like that.
What would your stripper name be?
Jesus Christ.
I mean, white chocolate. If we're staying within this same.
Just Wesley.
White chocolate's good.
Wesley, just Wesley. I like that.
I want to stick with the W
White
alliteration,
Wesley.
but I can't find one.
Well, my, you know, when they say like your middle name plus the street you grew up on, that's like your stripper name or your porn star name. Mine would be Wesley Sycamore.
Ooh.
I think that's a good one.
How much?
Well, I
Charge by the pound.
I charge by the pound. I don't know. Is that my pounds or their pounds though?
0 pounds.
Oh, okay. I get paid more that way.
Pound. It's a critical word there. So, Brandon Law 13 says, I need to watch the bench pillars. Understood. I misread this question originally when I was screening it. I thought he said I watched the bench pillars, and then he had a follow-up question. Fuck that. I'm not going to even get it. And don't edit that out.
He got shot down.
Just go watch the fucking bench pillars video and then ask your question. All right.
It is my ultimate goal that every question that gets asked, I can just refer to a video.
Yeah.
Video. All right. Chad. How do you program for a powerlifter who is not explosive at all, has been following a program going between hypertrophy blocks and strength blocks for a year plus, been following RP templates for diet for that same year, and has plateaued / regressed in all of their lifts?
Well, I think it's simple to say that they've done too much volume. You know, they've probably unlikely with reading those things and being a fan of stuff that they did too little. So just in a non-functional, overreaching, overtraining state. So taking, either just one block at minimum volume would be good. And then, if they really do feel like they're slow, that doesn't have a huge carryover to powerlifting success. Yeah, doing a more of an explosive strength type of block, I can get on board with that. Doubles, triples, building up, quality work capacity through that. I used to do a lot of stuff like 8 to 12 triples every minute on the minute in the squat.
It makes me suspicious when they open up saying like not feeling explosive for powerlifters. That usually like a bad start, right? And then like Chad said, probably have to go back to the drawing board. It sounds like you're just doing something crazy and making.
They did say that they were running the diet templates, which I am suspicious that maybe they lost a lot of weight and regressed.
Yeah.
So that stinks. I mean, like it's, how would you program for a lifter like that? It's just be like, just try to do a good job programming, it's kind of like.
Start thinking about your volume landmarks if you haven't been doing so already.
For sure. All right. Trying to come up with good ones here. All the Quinn questions have flooded in.
There was a lot of Quinn ones.
Oh, man.
He was great. I got a huge Quinn boner.
It's easy to diagnose people's injuries from
an Instagram question.
Posts,
yeah. That's very straightforward. Decker Logan. This one's for Chad. When first getting into strongman, do you think it's best to improve your weaknesses or focus on your strengths?
So in terms of events and everything, we look at the most successful strongman. You're going to have explosive strength qualities, endurance, muscular endurance qualities, maximal strength qualities, and very successful strongmen are going to kind of fall within that spectrum in different places. I think first off, you got to look at what contests you're going to be doing and get ready for those. But if you're just starting out, even the things that you're perceiving as strengths, maybe relative strengths, but they're still probably weaknesses in the grand scheme of things. So improving maximal strength, like it's called strongman. You got to be strong to do it. So yeah, that's always where the most attention is going to be. But if you're severely lacking muscular endurance, I think you can develop enough of that for strongmen without doing like a muscular endurance block, but more so just by pushing the volume of assistance work, shortening your rest periods a little bit here and there.
It's hard to say because the thing with being a beginner is that you don't have strengths or weaknesses yet. That is a time-tested, battle-proven kind of thing.
It's also, here's another question. Getting into strongman. By the time you got into strongman, you were already super strong. I don't know where this person is getting into strongman. Like some people get into strongman. I've literally seen people do strongman meets when they've trained for 6 months. Like they started and their coach is like strongman and they're like, sweet. So it's like if you're getting into strongman and you're not all around strong yet, then, it's really, a very different answer. Then your job is to just get strong in the big three and like, pulling movements. And then if you're getting into strongman and you're like super, super strong already, then, it's a more strategic question, injury management question, and maybe getting into a mock meet and seeing if something is so weak that it's really keeping you outside of the competitive circle. Mm-hmm. Another thing is like what level of competition you're at. Like if your log press is good enough to win nationals, do you just organize your training to try to get the biggest log press ever? Well, if you want to go to log press worlds, sure. But then maybe your grip is so weak that like, look, you win the log press every time by a mile. It doesn't matter anymore. They don't give you any more points as far as I know in strongman for winning something by a mile. So it really is a sport kind of that rewards, maybe working on your weak points a bit more. But then again, coming back to that earlier one, like if you're fucking weak to begin with, like don't fucking work. Imagine someone be like doing grip work. And you're like, why are you doing so much grip work and so much like yoke stuff? And why aren't you doing a lot of pressing? And they're like, well, my press is pretty good. Like, what's your press? They're like 135 pounds for a set of 6. And you're like, why? You need to just train.
There's also a difference between being like having a strength and weakness or being competitive at something. Like, for example, you might have awesome pressing strength and your leg stuff, like your deadlifts or any of the stuff starting from the floor, carries, it's not bad, but it's competitive, and people will often perceive that as like a weakness, where the reality is it might actually be worth cultivating that pressing strength so you can score a lot of points.
Because there are a lot of pressing events. It's not just one.
Right, and then if you're doing okay, if you're competitive in the other events, then you might end up just winning on points a lot of the times because you've cultivated one particular aspect. So it's a difficult question to answer at times.
I always thought that my pressing was the weakest part of my strongman events, but when I'd go to competitions, I'd finish higher than I thought. Not because I did better than expected. Everyone else was just worse than I thought that they were going to be. But when I was training strongman as well, I had limited access to implements. So all I really did was train yoke farmers, stones,
basics,
deadlift, and overhead pressing, whether axle or the log. And I think if you train those 5 events, you develop sufficient aerobic capacity and sufficient lactic capacity, you're now good at like 80% of strongman.
Yeah. Chad, if we had to do like not pillars of strongman, but like the most important direct fitness characteristic for strongman, other than the ability to like pick up a lot from the ground, like deadlift type moves, here's my impression. Let me know if I'm wrong or missed something really big. Gripping strength, loaded walking, and pressing. Other than like deadlifting and stuff like that, is there anything else huge that we're leaving out except for like stones, right? Which kind of like combine some of those. Because I feel like if your grip is weak, you're fucked. Like you're just going to lose competitions. If you can't walk with heavy weights, there's like 3 events in every competition. If you're just a really shitty presser, like you're not going to go super far in strongman. What do you think is like another big thing that like if you have a weakness in it, you got to really fix that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, just general back strength. So many of the events are
stones type stuff.
Yeah, the low back and lat strength, whether it's being able to pull a stone into your body or a sandbag, arm over arm pulls, the stability that's going to provide in a yoke walk and farmer's walk, it goes a really long way.
That makes sense.
Oh boy,
Marcos.
I was waiting for that. Go ahead.
Strongman. Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of fat people wasting everyone's time, or an actual sport?
Bro, Marius? Are you kidding me?
Name another lean strongman.
Haftor's is pretty lean as strongmen go.
Yeah. Did you say Chad?
Yeah, I said Chad. Yeah.
Is this a different Chad?
I don't know anyone else named Chad.
Yeah, Christoph Radzikowski is lean.
Yeah.
Darren Sadler, that guy was shredded.
He's super shredded.
Errol Haugen.
He's like 1,000 years old and still fucking jacked.
That's Ode Haugen.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The other Haugen, is he still competing or no? Back in the day,
he became a boxer.
Yeah, that's right. He's like super athletic. He's just good at everything.
I used to drive up once a month and train with Ode Haugen. He lives in like North LA. Mm-hmm. And the first day I drove up there, he was 62 years old, did all the events with us, and then went in and squatted 315 for a set of 20.
Okay.
Some people are just Vikings.
I mean, he has the most old man strength that could ever exist. He's like, if you're the strongest old man, and plus all the old man strength, his hands are like twice the size of mine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He did the actual Arnold, I think, for like a year or two when it started.
He competed at World's Strongest Man when he was over 50.
That's
Mark Felix, I think, is 50 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez.
Fuck. All right. Question from Miguel CGO. Question for Chad Wesley Smith. How do you deal with people with difficulty gaining strength even in early stages? Some coaches say to do lower volumes while others say higher volumes. What do you think of this?
I don't deal with them. I cast them aside.
What a cocksucker. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, as a beginner, as you're trying to establish, what kind of volume you can tolerate, the low volume concept of like just doing 5-3-1, like the base 5-3-1 thing, that's going to work for a very short time.
How long is very short? We're talking about 3 months, 6 months, a year? What do you think?
Yeah, I could see 6 months.
6 months.
If someone is strong and doing it and able to produce a ton of stimulus by doing that one all-out set.
So basically people that are like more fast twitch dominant, right?
Yeah.
They get strong fast with low volumes, and that strength starts to climb so much that the workouts get better and better because the low volumes are pushed up by intensity.
Yeah. But for a beginner just starting out, trying to build your work capacity strategically, whether that's just adding a set per week, if you get into too high of reps per set for a beginner, their technique is going to degrade so much. So I really like using like controlled rest periods, and maybe they start out doing 4 sets of 5 on an exercise, and then 5 sets of 5 the next week, 6 sets of 5, all across at the same weight or small incremental
Words from my mouth.
Incremental increases in weight. That'll go a long way because you can develop some technical ability with that, as well as if you're just starting out, you don't need to get into the 6, 8, 10, 12 reps to build muscle. You're going to do that very well in the 5 rep range with a little caloric surplus. So I would,
especially when you're beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those, like, you get into like this, we tackle this all the time. It's not a cookie cutter thing where you just say like, this is good or this is bad. Like, it's contextual and there's trial and error. So ultimately, like, yeah, we can say in general, beginners don't need quite as high volumes to make similar gains, but that doesn't necessarily account for you specifically. It's just a general trend.
I fear that this can become misinterpreted, but thus we will be very clear on what is meant here. There are certain rates of gain that are genetically and environmentally set that do not depend on your training program. Sometimes you're just not slated to make really fast gains, even from the beginning. Interestingly enough, when I started lifting, I didn't make fast gains, but I just kept making gains for 18 years straight. Slowly, I'm still making gains. So just because you're making gains slowly doesn't mean at all, and there's direct research to confirm this, it means you have a really good chance of actually making gains for a long time, becoming super big and strong. It's just one of those things where I think when people think, oh, I'm not making gains really fast, I need to make gains fast. It's like, yeah, maybe you don't, or maybe you just don't have it in you. And then there's not really a skill. Chad, how many times in your career as a coach have you encountered folks that have this notion of how fast they should be gaining, and it makes them program hop for 10 years until like join your Facebook group for like power building and finally get on a good program? And they're like, what the hell have I been doing for 10 years? And you're like, I don't know, but here you are.
Yeah. The question of, is it realistic for me to do blah, blah, blah weight in blah, blah, blah amount of months or something? It's like totally impossible to answer. And yeah, I think people do themselves a disservice in trying to find those kind of magic numbers because the variability of it's just way too high. But to the like the responder type of stuff, there's have you read the book The Sports Gene, David Epstein?
I haven't read the whole book, no.
Mel has it in the house. I haven't read it either.
So he talks in it about his own college track career, how he would come in like in pretty poor shape out of the summer and have faster rates of. He's just talking about how some people would come in and they'd get out of shape fast and then get back into shape fast. Other people never really got that out of shape, but compared to day one of the season compared to the end of the season wasn't that much change. and just how people's how their muscles are made and all the systems. And it's like you see some people who look at a weight and get stronger, and Larry Wheels type of thing, and then other people's muscles, they just ain't made of such good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And there's no point in just being upset about it. Just do your best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the when people are like trying to figure out their genetics or their genetic limit or something. What's the point of figuring it out anyways? Because you can't do anything to change it. So you either can just get as much out of it as you can.
If you've been training for 5 years and you have not a whole lot to show for it, and you want to figure out your genetic limit, your question is like, should I even keep doing this? Because I want to be good at something. And if you've been training for 5 years and you're not really good at it, I would say maybe should for something else. I will say this, that if you've been gaining weight or at least maintaining your weight and you haven't gotten a lot stronger in 3 to 5 years of training, you're probably not cut out for that sort of thing. There is, I was talking to Greg Knuckles about this a while ago. In many ways, training is a way of discovering your genetic potential versus how different the training is, and these minutiae really opening up a whole new world for you. And this is kind of a sad reality. It's actually something Chad talks about all the time, at least behind closed doors, and we'll see if you can talk in public, good athletes, man, they're just fucking good, man. And you can train them really well and they win the Olympics. You can train them okay and they still are top D1 performers, right? Maybe they'll go to the Olympics, but they're fucking still good. And then for people that just aren't really good, man, there's not like, if they're like, okay, I've been doing everything perfectly, and you look over their logs and they talk to you and they know what they're talking about. They've done everything great. Like, I've been training for 4 years and I'm just not seeing these gains. And like, you look at them, you look at their numbers when they started and they're just actually not. You're just like, they're like, what is it? And
it's you,
man, there's just nothing there, man. Like,
it's you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially in those like pure output sports, track and field and weightlifting, the genetics are going such an incredibly long way. Like, you could have all the want and the best program ever to run the 100 meters. And, if your waist isn't small and your legs aren't this proportion and your, muscles don't insert at this angle with this % of fast twitch, it just ain't going to happen. Like, you can't will yourself beyond that. But to the effect of like different responders, as people know, I'm adopted, and about 5 years ago I met.
Did you mean to say adapted?
I met my biological brothers, 2 full biological brothers. So I was 27 and they were 25 and 21. At the time I was, 6'1", 350 pounds.
Did you instantly consume them to gain their strength?
The 25-year-old was maybe 6 foot 190, and the 21-year-old was like 5'10", 165. And I was 165 when I was 13. And yeah, I was bigger than them when I at birth and growing up as a kid, I guess. But I wonder if I was more a case of like epigenetics, and that they just never. Maybe they were supposed to be freakishly large.
Well, genetics for potential and genetics for realization are two different things. Yeah. Like, you can just walk around, be a normal person. Like you say, look at the weights, hit the steel, and all of a sudden you blow up. Like, well, I'm not going to use myself as an example of a good athlete because I'm not like you. But like, I'm like 5'6", 265 or whatever. My dad is 5'5", 150 pounds. He's the second biggest member of my family. I got to a drug-free but fat but muscular 270. If my dad lifted weights, fuck, like, he could be probably freaking pretty jacked, but he just the set point for body weight's just not that high.
Yeah.
And how much did I have to force feed myself to get this big? A lot. But some people will force feed and put on only fat doesn't work, and it's just not happening. So there's a difference between where you start and your adaptive potential. You probably had a good measure of both, which is why you're like a 900 some pound squatter. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where, like, in track and field especially in sprinting, the starting point and adaptive potential are always real close to each other. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're not the fastest kid at your high school, you're probably not going to the Olympics anytime soon. As a matter of fact, if you're not beating adults as a 10-year-old racing, you're probably not going to the Olympics anytime soon.
And the other thing, too, is like, you don't have to be overly attached to one thing, whether it's track in this example or being big and strong. Like, you might be great at other sports that you just haven't had exposure to yet.
Totally.
Right? So maybe you're not the fastest or most jacked guy, but you might be an awesome rugby player, or maybe even fucking darts.
Oh, what about endurance athlete,
or
dude?
endurance athlete?
I've seen people like try at weightlifting, suck, take up cycle racing and start winning just shit. Like, oh, it looks like there's a reason I sucked at weightlifting because I'm all slow twitch.
Most people tend to gravitate towards the sports and activities that they're good at, but if you don't get that exposure and you have this
Just
ideal
never
like
knew.
I want to be Chad. Well, you're never going to be Chad. You're never going to be Chad, but it doesn't mean you can't be good at something else.
more beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
Which is not hard to do. I mean, look at you. Jesus Christ.
Have you not seen the meme pages? I'm known across the internet for my handsomeness.
It's true. Frustrated strength coach
he's
is going to be cutting off your face pretty soon and putting it on a fucking hat. Marcos.
I like the it one where it was like, we've got Chad Wesley Smith down here. He climbs in.
Right. See ya. He gets down there. Chad's like, hello. He's like, I watched your bench pillars video. Chad's like, sweet. What'd you think? He's like, it's pretty good. They just kind of like,
You want to play in this poo water?
yeah. Is there a clown here? Nope. You train New York's best and brightest. Have you ever had clients with just exotic goals of like, I want to be fucking shredded and jacked and the willpower to achieve them? Like ready, working, and just you knew at some point during the process that their genetics were just going to be this huge cap. And like, if that has happened, is there a way to like tell clients that? Maybe a hint, like drop something in their locker, like before they leave the gym, like it's a note.
I used to tell that to our temple students.
Hey, I have a crush on you, but
Well, like
you're
anything
never
else.
going to amount to shit.
Well, like
Really? You tell that to temple students?
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, I failed A&P 3 times, but I really need to get to PT school. I'd be like, bro, that ship sailed. Fuck. You gotta think
I
about
never
something
did
else.
that as a professor. I was like, I don't know. We can be
well,
good
with
at stuff.
coaching, it depends how cool you are with the client or the type of relationship you have. And then at that point, you're honest. You're like, yo, man, look at here, son. You're never going to make it. Stop, quit, rap, sell drugs, play basketball, do what you got to do.
Is that the kind of
never gonna work
demographics you're a personal trainer to?
Obviously not. Can't pay bills with that demographic.
All right. So let's see. Chad Wesley Smith. Thoughts and experience on difference between female and male powerlifting programming as it pertains to intensity/volume. Volume, there's answers about it all over, and I'll just sum it up. Women can handle more volume, so let's not talk about that. But intensity is a curious concept. I would love to hear your opinion on it, Chad. Female versus male, average intensity, weight on the bar relative to 1RM in a powerlifting program. Hit it.
Yeah, I mean, the females are going to be higher there as well, particularly in the bench press. You're going to get female powerlifters who can take like 97% of their bench PR for a triple, and then you add 2.5 kilos, and it goes from 1 at 7 RPE to 0 at 11 RPE.
Yes.
So yeah, in the squat and deadlift, it's less significant. So I'd say anywhere from 3 to maybe as high as 6, maybe even 7% in the bench press. A female would be that much higher relative to a similarly qualified male.
Solid.
It's kind of trippy as a male coach. I think you and I have talked about this. When you program for females, you'll write programs and be like, no one's going to survive this.
Yeah.
And then they're like, it's easy. And you're like, say what? The stuff I write, I help Crystal with her programs every now and again. The stuff I write down, I'm like, she's going to die. And sure enough, she's like, I did it. And I'm like,
I've written
up.
the last month, I've done 2 mass specialization phases for like my female clients who aren't particularly strong. And you just look at it and you're like, what? You're training arms almost every day or training legs like virtually every day. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Marissa's done 11 sets of 6, like hard squatting in one session. Come back a couple, 4 or 5 days later and do another 7 sets of 6 like that.
Jesus Christ. Marcos, you ever done, well, let's start at the top. Have you ever done any squats?
Yes, Michael.
You sure about that?
High bar and low bar.
You're just spitting out words at this point. Have you done a set of 6 before?
I have.
Can you count to 6?
I can.
Do
it's
it.
the number 1. It's the number before 7.
That's actually good. You got that right. Lucky guess. Chad Wesley Smith. Is a recovery different for taller guys with more muscle mass? Not necessarily stronger, but just muscle mass because of a bigger frame.
Probably yes. And especially in the terms that we talk about MRV and the number of sets, overloading sets per week. Taller person, each of their sets is more work than the shorter person. The Thor Bjornsson, Sergey Fedosienko is like the extreme example I give for that, both as qualified as could be. When Sergey pulls his sumo deadlift and the bar moves, 2 or 3 inches, and compared to when Thor pulls a conventional deadlift and it probably moves the entirety of Sergey's height.
Yeah, toe to head.
Yeah, even though they're both the strongest in the world and so their qualification is equal. The absolute distance the bar is moving plus the absolute weight on the bar. I know that they're saying though, even with the same weight on the bar.
I honestly think that if what's his name, Thor Bjornsson did Fedosenko's workout with him, like all of his reps, Thor would tire the fuck out. He probably does like sets of six, like 6 sets of 6 at 180 kilos. Like that's like adding up. At some point, your back's just pumped, and you're like, can we stop doing this? Like,
So if we're just talking about, did he say taller and heavier, but the same strength? Is
yes,
that what he said?
yes. So like more muscle mass, but because you have to move the weights a bigger distance, the numbers on the a bar are the same. So like if you have like someone who is like a super badass Asian lifter that's doing the crazy Japanese sumo technique and shit, and deadlifting 500 pounds, and then like a lanky super tall dude that's doing 500 too, but weighs like 200 pounds. Like what is the difference in like fatigue and so on and so forth that's going to occur? Is there like a predictable like, yeah, just because you're taller and bigger, it's going to be more fatigue, or is it like strength is mostly what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the height and the weight is going to increase it a little bit, but then the strength is bringing it back down. So maybe, you end up with slightly more fatigue, but it's not that significant.
So strength is definitely the biggest fatiguing factor. Difference between individuals, other than gender, maybe, or sex.
Yeah, I'd say sex is the most significant one, but with the strength in this hypothetical example, experience is probably also not equated there. And just like if we were making these into real people, experience is probably not equated either. So you have both of those factors working to lower MRV, even though the height and weight, you have the lower experience, lesser relative strength, raising MRV while height and weight are lowering it.
Yeah, it gets pretty complicated.
Yeah.
I have a chart for this.
I was going to say, I wish somebody had a chart. Chad, best exercises or drills to increase sumo speed off the floor, assuming technique is the issue and not, assuming strength is the issue and not technique or mobility. I'm going to interject here real quick and wonder how the fuck strength can be an issue if it's not a technique thing. Why speed off the floor matters much if your strength is good.
Yeah.
Do you think it matters much?
For the sumo, the sumo deadlifter, moving the bar quickly from the floor should not be a very high priority. If you can do it, that's fine. But people try and pull fast and have kind of this sudden start.
If you round your back, you can actually pull real fast right off the floor. Problem is you got to fix that shit on the way up, and then that's real bad. Yeah,
exactly. The off the floor in the sumo deadlift is very similar in a lot of ways, not technically, but conceptually, to like the first pull of a clean or snatch. All it is setting you up to be in the right positions at the top. So I'm always cueing people of patience off the floor, and even it's going to end up being slow, but I'd much rather them be slow in the right position than yank the bar off the floor, it moves fast, but then they're never in a position to finish it.
I think there's a whole generation of powerlifters, or half generation, that were coached by folks who competed in the equipped era, even though they didn't equip themselves. And they were coached on speed from the start, because the way to run and gun best with a bench shirt, deadlift suit, squat suit is to use the force curve and get it up as fast as possible. You're basically letting the suit launch the most weight for you. It doesn't work like that raw. If you start out too fast, it is another reason why I'm not a huge fan of super fast breaking speed, especially off the floor in a deadlift. That can cascade you into a poor, like it can throw off your technique. Like it literally throws off the bar path. And then you got so what, you're up halfway in the fucking quarter of a second. Nobody's counting how fast that shit is, dude.
Yeah.
Take your fucking time.
And I think people would equate in their mind thinking that, well, I was closer to making it.
Yeah,
because the bar was closer to lockout.
Right, that's like,
but that doesn't necessarily mean you were truly closer to making the lift.
Yeah, that's like running your race car super fast and running out of fuel right before the end of the race. Like, no, the reason you're not making it is because you're going super fast.
Yeah.
Like, really, really trippy. Elwin Kassar.
Spicy.
Very spicy. For Chad Wesley Smith, is there anything special that he does on powerlifting meet day in order to perform maximally? Or is there something that you'd suggest people do to perform maximally on their powerlifting meet day? Thanks. What a huge question. Let's talk about psychological shit. How does Chad Wesley Smith unleash the fucking dragon within? Is it a dragon? Is it a lion? Or is it just a satanic goat in a pentagram?
Well, I mean, you probably as much as anyone could attest that no animals are releasing from me at powerlifting meet day, as we got to be roommates in Australia for my first 2,300 pound total. I was probably about as pumped up as I am right now.
Exactly as pumped up.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike did a shitty job of wrapping my knees, and we had to switch it to a real strong-handed man.
It's offensive. Continue.
Yeah. I mean, most of the psychological preparation is going to be a product of the entire training process. If you're approaching training the right way on a day-to-day basis, to where you're focused on technical development and not putting on a show for your training partners or Instagram or whatever that may be, and thinking that you have to do something sort of beyond yourself, then I think you're ready to go to a meet, and adrenaline is going to be there whether you try and make it there or not. There's going to be that anxiousness and everything. And
you never dealt with lifters that are like neat. So people tell me this stuff all the time at jiu-jitsu and powerlifting, like I need help getting amped up. I don't always understand that, because I get it somewhat, but usually I think most people need to calm the fuck down. I don't know.
It's also usually an over-reliance on getting amped up in training, and then you have a hard time actually doing it when you need to.
Yeah, that happened to me in my younger years, whether it's like, I need to work out to heavy metal and like all my pre-workout, and then it's like, what do I do when I don't have that? It's like, fuck, I'm eating shit now. So it took me a while to like just try to get, And
it's like every time you do it, the effect of it becomes less profound.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's, I don't know if fight or flight's the right term in it, but that same kind of
Stress response.
Yeah. Once it becomes, I've done this all the time type of thing, it's not going to give you that same juice.
Right.
That if it's the first time or one of the newer times to really let your adrenaline and stuff start to take you like that, but not to the point where you can't focus on your technique anymore. Visualization stuff I think is useful as well. Typically in the few days before I meet, every scenario in my head is played out from, bomb outs to.
Really? So you're thinking about the stuff?
Oh yeah. It's tough for it to not cross your mind. I remember back in your old stomping grounds at ETSU, one of the first times that I won my first national championship in the shot put there. And the night before the meet, couldn't sleep at all and had every scenario from fouling out to setting the NAIA record run through my head. And then I fouled my first two throws. So I was right on the verge of fouling out. Made the next one, won the meet. And then on the sixth throw, after I'd already won through what would have been the NAIA record, except I ended up fouling that too in a terrible way to foul, because I let go of it, kind of spun around again, saw it hit the ground, and saw how far it was, and it like drew me out. I was like, "Holy shit!" And just
and you stepped over.
Yeah, but a real fight, like hopping on one foot, kind of trying to stay in, but they still measured it for me. Just
if we could get a ghost to push you back in time, like. How many puppies would you send into a slaughter mill as an exchange, Chad?
I'll pass on this.
Okay, so a lot of puppies.
There's no right answer here.
Is it kittens that you prefer then? I see where this is going. Z Thompson, 27. I sure hope he wasn't 27 years old when he made that profile name.
Or maybe he's the 28th Z Thompson.
Yeah, with the first one just being Z Thompson. Mm-hmm. Maybe 29th because Z Thompson 0.
Prime.
I saw this on CNN today, he says. How do you feel about laughing as an exercise? How many sets of laughing should I do? What's the MRV for laughter? Should this be done loudly in the gym or in my own home? Thank you for your time. Who was I talking to about training volume? Was it you, Scott the Sound Guy? Training volume is how loud you yell when you train. And nobody can critique you. You're like squatting, just going, ah! And they're like, sir, can you please keep it down? I'm like, no, it's high training volume. They're like, oh, damn, well, I don't know. It's not that high. And then you yell later. She's like, that's good. Chad.
Get it? Training
Laughter.
volume.
Let's talk about it. What makes the Wesley Smith just heart brimming with joy? Tell us about what makes you happy.
Like a deep, hearty gut laugh.
Whatever, you know.
The
That was
movie
like
Elf or something. I don't know.
That was like a Jabba the Hutt kind of.
There's a reason I made that laugh, Chad.
Oh shit.
Some of the hardest laughter I've had for sure is when Max and I are making the movie parodies.
Those are funny.
I don't know how you guys get through that shit.
Those
Just
are
laughing the
so
whole time.
funny.
The first, there was nothing like the Commando one. That first time, and there's so many awkward scenes in that. Besides, like us tickling each other to the ice cream feeding
The
one,
ice cream one, yeah.
or like making up the plot to the Heavy Ducks mockumentary.
Dude, that was so good. I hate the Facebook sharing algorithm because I shared the fuck out of it and like 3 people saw it.
I feel very bad as Goldberg was arrested once again for public intoxication like last week.
You're kidding.
I hope we didn't push him over the edge.
He's like, fuck, people making documentaries about me.
Yeah.
Can we do films like that?
Scott? Yeah, Scott says we can. What do you want to be? What kind of character do you want to be?
Scarface.
Racist. That's a little racist.
Why was it racist? Wasn't he Italian? Oh, no, wait. The actor's Italian. What was Scarface in the movie?
Cuban.
You're not Cuban. How is that racist? What are you again? American. American is the answer.
What movie would we do? We could do Expendables.
We still got to do our
Expendables.
Karate Kid one.
Yeah, who's the Karate Kid in that one? You?
Yeah, I think I'm Daniel Son and you're Johnny Lawrence.
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
That's going to be good.
Sweet.
Especially if we can get a great blonde wig for you too.
Time out.
Yo, Johnny's been hitting the fucking sauce. God damn. Is he in high school? Why does he have back hair?
Have you guys rolled against each other yet? Oh,
This
Yeah.
is one of the questions we have a long time ago when Chad was much less technically proficient.
Well, we have
That's
twice.
fun.
Once in,
I know we were just doing stand up then.
yeah,
Yeah.
The one people
We were just getting tooled up by Arturo at that point.
yeah, he was killing us.
We rolled against a D1 wrestler who just stand up against him. He was just like, yeah, I'll take a single leg here, a single leg there. And we're just like, this sucks.
And I've been doing jiu-jitsu for probably like 3 months at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing it now?
I started last August. I've had like 2 full months off in that year for work travel stuff, but
Yeah. So you were at Henzo's this morning or yesterday?
yesterday.
Oh, you went to Henzo's?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did you beat Henzo at his own?
Did you meet him?
No, he wasn't there. Luca Atella was the professor of the class I was in, but I'm gonna go again tomorrow morning, I think.
This guy's so big.
That's guys, Chad. Who are you doing? Eating elephants or something?
You know who I love on Instagram is Renato.
Renato Laranja.
Renato Laranja, yeah.
Do you follow him on
He's
Instagram?
so good.
Oh my god.
Chad, are you
So
serious?
you gotta watch.
Renato Laranja. Follow him on Instagram. You gotta like interview him or something because he's unbelievable.
His whole spoof is that he just does a really good fake Brazilian guy to the point that people don't know that he's spoofing. And he used to go around and like call out all these Brazilian fighters like, why are you ducking me? Why are you ducking me? And they'd be like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, they get like legit pissed.
He's like 37-time world champion.
Yeah, 37-time. Mundials. Chad, there was fun. There was reality. And then there was the end. Gentlemen, do you have anything more to say to Chad before we kick him the fuck off our show?
No, it was awesome. Thanks for having us for the seminar.
Chad, I'm just going to make something real clear. Your podcast is a little fishing trolley, a crab boat. And over the horizon, a giant 1,000-foot megaton wave comes up. And
You know that crab boats are big, right?
yeah, but like compared to a 1,000-foot wave, James.
Just saying.
Anyway, can
One
I
of those-
fucking
This
finish?
is a rogue wave.
Here's the wave, right? Now the sports scientists is like a little rowboat that's on top of the wave about to die real soon. And that wave is like, I don't know, like Joe Rogan or some shit. Anyway,
Yeah.
Chad, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you,
One of the
sirs.
most educational ones we had, along with Quinn. You need to, when the Max one comes out, you will see that it's not remotely educational. That was sweet. Anyway, folks, as always, and I mean this when I say it, the Dark Lord is always watching you. Hail Satan, and we'll see you next time.
I'll be back.